preparing identity and access systems for the quantum era, our experts, Jason Joseph, Dipendu Biswas, and Gagan K. Mathur, discuss future proofing cryptography and authentication. This session will be led by moderator Hilal Ahmed. Let's welcome the panel.
So thank you so much, and very good morning to all. So a Sunday, you really need like a lot of motivation to come here on a Sunday. Given the weather, weather is fantastic outside, right? So there are a lot of basically interesting things to do besides attending a post-quantum cryptography session in the morning, right? So, but this is something that's very close to my heart. Like I keep talking about post-quantum cryptography a lot, and I think in the last five conference where I have spoken, I have actually only spoken on post-quantum cryptography, so you can understand like how I feel, how urgent it is, and why does it need that it has. And we have seen a lot of like advancements in post-quantum research, right? So yeah, a lot of things actually keep surprising when we do kind of like we start digging into when this conversation started. And one of the fascinating things is that it's not like something that's under the covers or it's not talked about enough. I think a lot of effort started way back in 2010, 2012. And as a matter of fact, the first quantum focus group was established in 2010. And NIST had the first, NIST had the first draft out for post-quantum cryptography and the challenge and things like that and the standards in 2012. So imagine like the conversation have been happening, but nobody knows about them. And I at least was oblivious that there is not a lot of conversation happening over post-quantum cryptography. Now, when we look at basically like the last few years where it has gained traction and people are talking about it, I think a couple of years back when I was at RSA, I think that was when one of the keynotes was about post-quantum cryptography. And there is a lot of research being done on it. So one of the things that actually surprised me was that how it's changing basically like so frequently and how it is becoming so accessible. When Google actually announced the breakthrough in quantum computing, when they were able to break the algorithm, basically hashes, and it was in 2019. And just a couple of years later, like China actually announced that what Google actually used, their quantum computing, basically the infrastructure that they used to break the SHA algorithm at that time to basically successfully create a collision between hashes, right? So when they actually did it, China actually came back and said that we have developed infrastructure that's like 1 million times faster than what Google used. So just imagine, like, it's such a fascinating thing because you see these things actually like advancing so fast, right? So, and one of the context that I feel is like important to understand is that like last year when Google announced, basically they have built the first quantum computing chip called Willow, right? So, and Willow was like a breakthrough in basically because you have like quantum computing that you as a very specialized infrastructure, specialized hardware that can actually do it. But then surprisingly, just 3 months later, China came with I forgot like what it was called, Zhangzhou something 3.0, right? So their supercomputer, right? And it actually was way portable and faster than what Google had actually created in Willow. Willow was a big news. Later, 3 months later, Willow is no longer a big news. Like, so this is so fascinating that how it actually has been changing. And now we basically as practitioners, as an industry, right? So we feel that, okay, we really need to take this seriously because as per the guidelines that have been actually basically come out in the industry that it says, okay, by 2026, you need to have a plan. You need to have a transition basically to quantum resistant algorithms by 2026. And you need to basically do the transition. The migration should happen by 2030. And it's something that NIST is actually advising. So now today, I think we have the guests here, who are basically experts in this area, and they have seen how it is actually evolving. It will be lovely to basically hear their thoughts on the same topic. So before actually I get started, so I would really love if we can just introduce ourselves really, really briefly. By the way, I'm Hilal. I'm the CISO at Liminal, and prior to this, I was CISO at Razorpay, and before that, I used to be the CISO at Dream11.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for making it. And my name is Jason. I am the CISO at Mpocket Financial Services. Previously, CISO at Ramsoft, and prior to that, CISO at Signdesk. Thank you.
Thanks, Hilal, for the preliminary introduction and touching on the context that we are going to deliberate today. Some facts I got from you right now, which is very enlightening. And thanks to Joseph and Gagan also, we were having some conversations outside, and hopefully we can have a better conversation. I am Dipendu from Teresa Technologies. We are a fintech startup of pretty new, 4-year-old, and business financing is what we are digitizing, and security is very key for our customers, and we want to ensure that the hackers do not harvest information. Even if they are harvesting, we provide the transition or the protection for our customers through our product, so that their end customers are also protected. So we constantly keep in touch with various advancements and the NIST guidelines that are coming up, so that we ensure everything goes into our product to safeguard our customers. And this discussion, I'm also looking to learn as well as deliberate on what are the possibilities and how we can make it faster to safeguard the future.
Thanks, Dipendu, and thanks, Hilal, for setting the stage. And thanks to the wonderful audience, like Hilal mentioned, making time coming here on this Sunday morning. Rainy Sunday morning, rather, I should say. So, my name is Gagan. As Hilal mentioned, I'm Gagan Mathur, and I'm having almost 30 years of IT experience, presently working with Shell as a program manager for past 10 years now. And my key area is identity and access management. So for past 7 years, I've been leading IAM programs in Shell. So we have been transforming IAM landscape to business critical applications, working across compliance and business valuation towards the application side. Thanks, Hilal.
Wonderful. And thank you for being here. Like, it's super motivational to see you here. So anyway, I think what we're talking about is basically the challenge and threats to basically identity and access management systems due to post-quantum cryptography, right? And one of the things that I always feel, basically, when we have these discussions, basically in peer groups and in conferences and other things, right? So one of the things that everybody keeps talking about is that right now it's not basically like consumerized. Like people, it's not like, say, something like a homomorphic encryption, which is not like mainstream. So similar to that, like quantum cryptography is not necessarily mainstream. So one of the threats or one of the things that people often debate about is, okay, how big of a threat is basically like harvesting basically credentials or harvesting basically encrypted databases, encrypted files, encrypted systems right now, and then decrypting them later, because whatever cryptography we use for access management or for encrypting the content used like algorithms like RSA or ECC or something like that, right? And all of them can be broken with the basically post-quantum cryptography systems, right? So now the challenge is that, like, what do we need to do, or is this like a real threat? And I'll start, Jason, with you. Do you think that is a challenge that we need to address right now, or do you think we still have some time?
Okay. Thank you, Hilal. This is a very interesting question. And drawing from your context, wherein we see that there are advancements on the hardware side with respect to quantum, AI is also into the picture. Quantum AI is into the picture. Accelerated GPUs are there. So if you look at the whole thing in entirety, what used to we had a 10-year horizon for quantum computing to become mainstream or at least partly commercial. Now, as I see it, the way things are going, the timelines will be a lot more reduced. So I will definitely say that this is not a long-term thing anymore. It will be a medium term at least, so that is one part. The second part is, okay, now that you have that information in mind, or let's say an adversary has that kind of information in mind, which everybody does, by the way, who's looking into this, you will definitely get into the store now, decrypt later game. So essentially, this is a curious problem wherein the technology is not there yet by a large factor, but then it is inadvertently causing a vulnerability, or let's say a threat to, let's say, or maybe a business case for the adversary to, let's say, affect a data breach, download data, store it, harvest it, whatever you call it, and use it as and when the time comes. And as of now, there is around certain nation state actors also, we have limited visibility on what their capabilities are. So we do not know whether the SNDL concept is still something which is there, or it is something which is actively being exploited as well. So there are certain concerns around this, which is a gray area, but definitely this is something we should consider immediately given the impact.
Wonderfully put, right? So I think it's obviously like something, the timelines are getting shorter and shorter, given the advancement in basically the capabilities of the hardware, as well as basically the process around it, and the motivation as well that the nation state actors may have, or the adversaries that may have. So just continuing with that, Dipendo, so right, so basically when we have a situation like that, right, so what is the something kind of like remediation or mitigation for such a situation like that, given that whatever is trusted right now, which is basically like RSN, I mean, 5 years before, like nobody thought that it could potentially be broken, right? Nobody had an idea that a SHA 256 hash can be broken, right? So now we are at a stage where say, oh, yeah, everything is possible, right? Now our data that's actually encrypted and data that we have stored in very secure formats, right? We feel that, okay, if somebody, our adversaries get access to that, it can be basically decrypted later. So what kind of challenge that possess? And the second thing that I want to understand is that what are certain things that people can do, the organizations can do to mitigate to a certain level?
Yeah, very valid question and looming threat that you have picturized. Essentially, there are organizations in Bangalore. One startup is called QNU Labs. So they have built hardware and they are providing it to the military and the government to ensure, it's in a closed network. It's not on an open network. So they in a closed network, they can control the entire communication channels so that, any external threat can be thwarted. And also there is a national quantum mission in India where government is putting a lot of focus. Quantum communications are being used as we speak by some government organizations, but they are in a closed loop and they have optical fibers, quantum repeaters, and all of that. They use special cryptography for quantum security. So that's possible. Organizations which want to do that, they can do that, but right now it's in a closed loop, and in the open world, where most of the organizations and businesses live, the internet, even if it is virtual private. So that's somewhere they have to segregate, and if we can put some confidential information in a closed loop environment, and what we cannot put, we have to live with as of now, but have a plan to mitigate that.
Sorry to interrupt, but is mitigation possible? Like, so because like you already know that you can break it, and the data they already have harvested right now. So obviously, like that can be broken at a later time, right?
Yeah, so that's something that it's a clear and open and thread that is already there. So that's a little difficult as of now. So one mitigation, as I said, in a closed loop to prevent right now, let's say in a quarter's time. Any transactions down the line from a quarter onwards, right? That's I mean that's my perspective. Maybe other panelists might have a better knowledge and they can provide more information. But from my perspective, whatever is harvested, I mean, I don't think much can be done unless we do some changes. But I haven't thought about it. But what I see is protecting a quarter and onwards of transaction and all.
Perfect. So I think like it's a two part situation, right? So basically what has been harvested, pretty much we have to basically understand like okay, what data has been could have potentially have been harvested, understand the implication if that is exposed and exploited, and draw some kind of basically mitigation strategy or defense strategy against that. I think that's pretty much all we can do. But at the same time, you highlighted a very important thing, right? Which is basically making attack surface area as small as possible, ensuring that okay, we do not necessarily accrue more debt in terms of basically the data that we are storing, minimize the data that we store, and of course, like ensure that okay, like the sensitive data has proper access controls and proper processes around basically around that. So that could potentially reduce the vulnerability that we actually face in the post quantum area. So Gagan, I have an interesting question, a fun question for you, right? So given that IAM is basically an infrastructure, right? So it has basically the PKI, it has certificates, it has tokens, it has different things basically that different protocols, different encryption, basically like protocols that are actually like involved in basically making the IAM infrastructure. So what do you think is the most basically vulnerable part of it? Particularly like just imagine it like this. Everything has to have some kind of relationship. So if one thing breaks, the other thing breaks as well. Like for example, right now the gold mark or basically the gold standard for authentication is basically digital signatures. And if digital signatures actually get compromised, what else can we do? Right? So do you think that we should think about this holistically, or we should prioritize some of these areas of IAM?
Yeah, thanks. I think probably I'll be building upon what Jason at Dipendu has mentioned and take a step back, right? So it's not about which one is more important. They are all interoperable. There's interoperability between them. When I talk about protocols, you talk about security tokens, you talk about the certificates, everything is built upon public key cryptography, right? And that is what Shor algorithm or something is threatening to break.
Yep.
And once that is broken, your foundation of trust, digital trust, is already broken, right? So what is needed right now is not to overhaul the entire IAM thinking of changing the entire IAM architecture, but start focusing on what is more critical. And so these three things are more critical. So what you have to do is to start developing crypto agile design themes basically in all these things. And among these things, you have to pick up those workflows that are more critical for the system, right? You have to start making a visibility baseline, identify which are the most critical areas for us across IAM systems, find out where do we have public key cryptographies, then how long do we have to secure those cryptographies. And if we have some suppliers or vendors, like in my case, I work for a non-IT company, right? So you have to see all our suppliers, but the cloud suppliers, are they also crypto agile or not, right? So once we have all these kind of things available, we'll have a security roadmap available for us, which can be linked to our overall broader digital transformation. That is a bigger target. Immediate target is start looking at where public key cryptography is being used and how those can be mitigated. And we have to look at developing crypto agile algorithms. We cannot say that today I have made one algorithm, I sit peacefully and wait for the doomsday to come and then everything will be fine. So hackers are already, like you mentioned, they are already, mining the encrypted data today to decrypt it tomorrow. So what has been done is done. But what we can develop is crypto agile algorithms right now, which are adoptable basically. So I cannot say that I have changed something today and it will be forever working. We have to develop architectures, IAM architecture that are adoptable. They can change as per the new technology, right? The second important thing is interoperability. So if I am saying I have to have crypto agile algorithms or crypto agile architectures, we should also have a dual mode cryptography available, because there are different industries, different sectors, public sector, private sector are changing at different pace, and that is creating a vacuum for us, right? So we have to have a interoperability. I should be able to support the new algorithm, and the backward compatibility should also be there. That's what I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we were discussing this earlier as well, right? So basically, like, I think we'll stick with the theme, like crypto agility theme and interoperability theme. So imagine it like this: like there are organizations that have terrible time or tough time to migrating to much faster algorithms, right? Or basically agile algorithms. So now challenge is that not all of them will be ready, right? So there has to be some interoperability. So does that leave a gaping hole? Because if we have interoperability or we have backward compatibility, which means that some of the organizations will basically support vulnerable algorithms. Regardless of how prepared I am, I may have the best of the breed, I may have the best of the infrastructure, best of the PQCs and PKDs and all that, or counter distribution keys, KOD keys and all that, right? But the problem is that like my partners with whom, like as you correctly mentioned, may not be as ready. So do you think that's a cause of concern?
It will definitely be a cause of concern, because I might say that as a company I am ready for the post crypto world or post quantum world, but my partners are not. So that is why the role of CISOs or the management comes into picture, where they have to ensure, they have to create a complete crypto agility baseline across the IAM systems and create a roadmap for that, how that will be done. So partners have to brought into confidence to select partners, either ask them to upgrade, and or we have to select new partners, right? One thing I also want to mention here is that now, because you mentioned earlier NIST standards and all, right? We have TISTIL, Derithium and all, which say that they are crypto safe and all, right? So what is happening now, NIST is publishing different kind of guidelines, right? In a different pace. But what is lacking right now is across industry, there's a no common language of IAM implementations, right? So what I am implementing a standard, but how I'm implementing is not the way he is implementing,
Right.
or Jason is implementing.
Right.
So we need to have a common this thing available. Otherwise, there will be gaps in the entire IAM interoperability across the geographies also, not within the sectors, right?
Yeah, that's something that I really want to talk about a little bit more, right? So imagine that worldwide there is no proper framework in terms of basically meeting these challenges, right? So you have some pockets here and there, like NIST is doing some work in the PQC, and then there are some other non-profit BVM, all of those basically BMFs and all those, they're doing some work in creating the standards, but there is no coherent way of actually getting this done. So one of the challenges is basically like how do we ensure that it does not become a wild west, right? So Jason, you may actually want to kind of like highlight. Imagine basically like a cross-industry collaboration that needs to happen. So how do you see policy and regulations actually making this simpler, or do you think they have no role to play in all of this?
No, absolutely. See, in all things security, if there is regulatory backing, gets a lot more attention and a lot more implementation focus. Now, case in point, which I want to make on a positive note, is the Indian BFSI sector, especially, wherein the regulator, RBI, not only mandates us to have a CBOM, cryptographic bill of materials in place. Basically, just like he was saying, inventorize all things cryptography. It could be your certificates, it could be your tokens, it could be other encryption protocols, which are dependent on all sorts of encryption algorithms. Now, once you have, you know what to defend, okay, or what to mitigate. They go ahead and ask us for what are the mitigation strategies that you have around it. Now, when you are building this framework, it automatically translates into the supply chain. So what are you going to do with an integration partners with whom you're sharing keys, right? So though conversations get along those lines, and that is where the start happens. So your first step is, okay, regulation definitely tells you, or let's say a framework, a worldwide or interoperable framework in case of IAM, that like he was saying, it gives you a baseline standard or a benchmark to say that, okay, this is how I start, these are the process around it. Now, once you have this, whether it is in-house or whether it is on a supply chain basis, you have certain ways of approaching it, just like I am drawing from what he was saying. Now, that could be okay. Immediately shifting to a quantum safe world. I mean, that in itself is a misnomer. We should look
exactly.
at continuous resilience, just like the DevSecOps concept there. Now, when we are looking at quantum resilience, we are also supposed to look at how we are going to do it. Now, that could start, okay, let's take up the supply chain aspect. Now, instead of even quantum key distributions or QKD concepts and all are relatively, for most organizations, it is impractical.
Yeah.
Right, at this point in time. So quantum random number generators are, as part of the evolution is something which you can suggest. But at some point in time, that shift should logically go towards that. So just to summarize, regulation, yes, definitely. Frameworks and standards, definitely. There has to be interoperable standard to all these things, and it has to sort of evolve.
Okay, so one of the things that Jason, I want to kind of like revisit.
Yes.
I am not a stranger to regulations, and I had done it a long, long time, right? So, and one of the most challenging aspect of regulations is the timeline.
Yeah.
Basically, like which we had to work with the government agencies, labs, and things like that.
Right.
Imagine I had to, in 2017, I had to get a module certified for FIPS 140-2.
Yeah.
Right, and it took I think for us it took 7 months to basically get that done, and that's considered really, really fast. I mean, we were in a hurry, and we constantly like followed up with the labs to basically get some response from them, and we were very particular about the dates and all those things with the labs, right? So it's not always possible that the government regulatory agencies actually like conform or basically become like have some synergy with us with regards to our timelines.
Right.
So one of the challenges that industry faces is basically like if we are being agile, do the regulatory agencies need to be agile as well?
No, most definitely.
Or let me put it another way. Or do you think that it's good for the regulators to take their own time or the agencies to take their own time, because most of these are like critical infrastructure, basically protocols, and they support some very sensitive systems. So they should take their own sweet time to basically validate the protocols, will validate the algorithm so that they do not make a mistake.
Again, I mean, this boils down whether it is at a national level or international or at an organization level. It boils down to what is the risk that you're trying to address. In case of quantum, yes, definitely there are. It is coming to a stage wherein all things encryption is being challenged, and therefore it naturally mandates that everything has to move at a faster pace.
Yeah, but it cannot take years, right?
No, absolutely not. It should not. It should definitely be much faster than that.
So depend on like do you think that there will be a time like when we can say that okay, regulations that actually come as part of basically our preparation towards becoming compliant with the post-quantum cryptography or the standards that are being designed by different agencies or the government? Do you think that there will be a partnership or there will be some understanding where they say that, okay, yeah, this is important, this is urgent, and we need to address it? Imagine just for the sake of basically like context, right? So the moving from basically like the PCI 3.0 to PCI 4.0, it took more than 12 years. I think more than 14 years, I think.
Yes.
It took more than 14 years. So do you think we should actually like encourage that, or do you think that we have to basically move faster, or the government can actually move faster than that?
If you see, we are sitting at Indian Institute of Science. It's a government institute, the leading research institute in the India and renowned in the world, right? The fact that a private conference is happening on cybersecurity, we are talking about quantum computing in a hall of a government body itself says, there's a vision to make sure, to come up with the realities, and regulators are working. I mean, we are in the financial services. Reserve Bank of India has created a separate Section 8 company, which tries to, make sure that innovation and regulation keep pace. It takes feedback from the industry and advises to the main Reserve Bank of India to see if there are any policy interventions can be done, and otherwise also it also through the innovation channel of Reserve Bank Innovation Hub. It tries to educate industry that this is what the regulator thinks, and please align with it. So it's working both ways. And it happens with NIST also. All the standards that come out, there is thorough due diligence, and a lot of industry partners, big players like IBM, banks like JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, they're always ahead in terms of regulatory. They are sometimes ahead of what regulators can come up to, right? So some of the leading organizations are visionary, so they think far ahead, and these feedback does go to the regulators and then goes to the bodies like NIST to create frameworks. There are 3 standards: 203, 204, and 5. Which are supported by, as Gagan was saying, Dilithium and Kyber. So these standards and discussion, it took a while, but some of the leading organizations, think ahead. They are visionaries, and by thinking ahead, they build inherent capabilities which are which are capable of protecting the individual citizens and customers, and the regulators then see that, and they see that, okay, how can we align our policies to this. So yeah, some of the visionary organizations, they help the regulatory bodies to catch up fast, and provide some protection to the consumers, businesses, and individuals.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I think it's more about coming to an understanding that there's collaboration that's going to be compulsory. It's not going to be like an optional thing, right? So, and given the sensitive nature of basically systems, basically the entire trust system actually breaking down, there is nothing like taking like time to basically address it. So the sooner we address it, the better it is for everybody. So I think I would love to see if anybody has a question from the audience.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So, just a couple of minutes back, there was a point on regulatory requirements and the time given by the government or the authorities to the companies. I have a thought to share along with the question, if it is something that resonates with you. Many times, what I've observed in my experience is that companies start working on regulatory things when the timeline just comes for some renewal, or something is hard pressed that, okay, this is something that needs to be get done by X date or X month. How about having an approach where this doesn't become a part of a process towards the end, when it becomes critical to achieve some certification or compliance, rather be part of day-to-day working of the organization, where regulatory requirements become the part of the process, like in terms of getting something secured intentionally rather than being pressed upon the compliance for.
Since we are just talking and you're from Microsoft, I don't know whether it's from Microsoft or your personal view, because Microsoft is visionary, it's well ahead.
500% personal.
Okay, all right. Yeah, then you're speaking for the rest of the industry, because the rest of the industry thinks and moves like that, right? So it's always like that. But there are solutions which sometimes are available, and they are meant for organizations which don't have time, and they're hard pressed for time, and they can take these solutions which are available and use it. Some could be proprietary, some could be open source, so they could use a mix of that to immediately address something, because they don't have the bandwidth to think beyond quarters or years or something like that. So that's my opinion. Joseph.
Yeah. So a few points which I wanted to speak along that. This is more of a general management question as well, in terms of how do we architect things around compliance.
Right.
Now, one of the first things which I want to bring to the audience is the compliance charter. So what happens is, organizations, big or small, this is a routine process exercise that we go about. So you have your annual operating plans and so on and so forth.
Right.
So you have something in place. This, in a similar manner, you have something which is called a compliance charter. Okay. Now, it is an exhaustive list of what are the things that you will be doing in the next 1 year with respect to audits, with respect to all things compliance. It also factors in certain contingency planning as well. So let's say you have things lined up, okay, which you do as a matter of general compliance. So those things are not missed out or, let's say, scrambled at the end. The second part is there is an aspect of contingency planning in the annual operating plans, etc. And definitely security teams have to be part of it. It should not be a development only or a CTO only activity. That is one. The third aspect is many organizations now, or let's say even compliance tools for that matter, bring in an element of regulatory intelligence.
Okay.
So wherein there is some amount of forecasting, or let's say that something, if a legislation is expected or something, there is sufficient heads up given. So monitoring all these things, taking inputs, baking them into these kind of frameworks, and then executing upon them will give you some amount of breather.
Oh.
Specific to quantum, taking a phased approach. Now everything does not need a heavy lift and shift.
Right.
You can prioritize.
Right.
So take a hybrid approach to it. Okay. And I was just mentioning earlier about, okay, you cannot move into the QKD aspects, at least have a QRNG, yeah, to start with. So that phased approach actually gives people a lot of time to breathe. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
My question is PQC really a panic or a marketing opportunity? So I do understand that companies, for government, it is a very important thing that even if their data is decrypted later after 10 years and it gets leaked, it is very disastrous for them. But like for IoT things, most of us have a device in our home which is completely unsecure and we still don't care. CRA compliance is getting kicked in Europe in 2027 and still not in Asian countries. So, and now when Google launched their hardware crypto accelerator, which is PQC enabled, it was a marketing opportunity for them. Now they are in talks that they are already at PQC. So, and if you consider the PQs, quantum computers which can break the AES or any traditional algorithm, that is at least 10 to 20 years ahead, because it needs at least 10k error corrected quantum bits to crack it. So, and we don't even know whether it is possible or not. So for general companies, is it really important to go for PQC if it is not about marketing and business opportunity?
I'm sorry, what's your name?
Kamlesh.
Kamlesh.
Yeah.
So, Kamlesh, a couple of things, right? So, one for sure is that it's not marketing gimmick or something like that, where people want to kind of like sell their products. So, first of all, we can't afford it anyway. So, second is that, see, it's like this, right? So, you want to basically like envision your adversary who is going to basically taking advantage of vulnerability that is in your system. Right? Who is it exactly? Right? It could be anybody. Right? It could be like the nation-state actors. Right? For example, right now China actually is the #1 supercomputing power in the world. Right? So China obviously, or somebody like that, kind of like has a strategic interest in actually ensuring that they make use of the technology that they have right now. So just imagine the scale at which they operate. It can be defense, it can be intelligence, it can be research, it can be logistics, it can be anything that you can think of, right? Imagine like what will happen to Bitcoins, for example. It's an alternate economy, digital economy, right? So what will happen to basically the base fundamental trust that we actually have in digital signatures, hashing algorithms, integrity checks, and things like that, right? So what you do right now is basically like understanding that, okay, if I'm able to do a digital transaction like a banking transfer or UPI or anything, that has a crypto backend system that's powering it. Now imagine somebody having a tool that can actually break all of that and can see and execute basically like transactions from your side. Now we are talking on an individual level. So individual level, whether it is a panic mode or a marketing mode, debatable, right? So, but on a like a systemic level, on a trust level, this is something that an industry as a whole understands that this is not marketing, right? Imagine like, say, for example, I have a leaked database somewhere, or not even leaked. Like sometimes we are very proud to show the encrypted databases, and we challenge people to say, okay, yeah, just break it. Like, let me see you break it, right? So now, for example, the most obvious example is basically the root certificate authorities, RCS, right? So when you have root certificate authorities, right, so they determine basically how the encryption is done in literal systems. So when there is no trust in the root CS, the certificate authority that is supposed to be the most trustworthy component in security, You cannot trust it. So imagine like what will happen if somebody who gets access to that and has malicious intent. Let's assume that they don't have malicious intent at all. Let's say that they want to do something good for humanity as well. But how confident and how comfortable will you be in that situation where you give keys to your sensitive information, to your basically information that holds your national secrets and things like that, to an adversary you don't trust? So that's catastrophic. So you don't, even if they want to do something good about it, still I don't trust them because they cannot hold that, right? So the panic mode, what you talk about, is like not necessarily like from an individual level. Individual level, I could care less, right? But as an industry, as a country, and as a society, we really have to basically understand that this is an urgency. This is not an hype. So to basically the counter this thought, okay, whether it is hype or whether it is marketing gimmick, not necessarily. We have right now practical uses of post-quantum cryptography that break systems. So even now, I'm very basically like afraid of exposing anything that's actually going to be post-quantum resistant. So what he was talking about, basically using quantum resistant number generators, for example, or quantum key distributing basically like mechanisms. So those are basically steps that we take to ensure that whatever we have right now do not actually get compromised later on. So that's where I am. Like, so it's not a hype at all. It's not marketing. It's a very urgent, and I think, in my opinion, it's very something that needs to be prioritized right away by the industry. Yeah. Dipen, do you want
Just to
answer?
add to Hilal, may I ask a counter question? So how many cash notes do you have in your wallet?
2020.
20, 30, and okay. So I think so that part, when you wake up tomorrow, you can be assured, nothing can, take it away from you. But rest of the money which you have in your digital systems, that's critical, right? So whether you call it, marketing or safeguarding, so I mean, like you can, it's a food for thought for you, and certain things which Hilal said, nation state actors already have that capability to, break current security.
So currently, none of the AES 128, AES 64 has been broken by PQC because there are no error corrected bits available from any quantum computers, and they are finding it very challenging. That's why I asked the question.
I'm not sure about that. I mean, like, because there's a lot of work, that's happening. A lot of researchers. I mean, there's a Raman Research Institute that's just few buildings away from Indian Institute of Science. They are working great. I've discussed with some of the professors there. You might want to talk to them and validate or get a current understanding, because I mean they are doing some phenomenal work, right? And I mean, I cannot answer exactly those facts, but you could check with people who are doing real work, and they can comment authoritatively on your particular question. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So Kamlesh, one thing. How familiar are you with the Shor's algorithm? I mean, well, let's imagine that like something that is basically a theoretical aspect of cryptography, right? So we need polynomial factorization to arrive, basically breaking a crypto system, right? So that has already been done. So we already know that a polynomial factorization that is used to basically generate the strength of the key is no longer valid. So when that's not valid, so anything that, particularly for symmetric encryption like 3DES or something like that, is not going to be valid. So meaning that regardless of whether the hardware is capable of breaking that or not, we have the mechanism to break it. So we know exactly how many computational cycles we need to do in order to break it. So it's not something that's going to be like unimaginable, or it requires like a continental amount of power to basically break it down. So we already have that apparatus actually in place. It just is basically, okay, we are not focusing. Just forget about, like, 3DES is actually, 3DES is actually easy, right? Imagine that we have to basically do something like a PKI, like say public key infrastructure, like RSA. Who can break it? Like ECC. Like it's an unimaginable. But by Shor's algorithm, by doing those cycles, we already know how we can break that. So RSA is not secure, ECC is not secure. So forget about 3DES, right? So, and that's actually something that's accepted. Right. Anyway, so thank you so much for the questions, and Dhaval and Kamlesh. So I actually want to basically like close the discussion on two questions, right? So one is, I think we talked about it briefly while we were actually having the discussion. So Gagan, why don't you tell some practical steps that organization can actually take right now to be ready for basically post-quantum cryptography?
Yeah, I think I briefly touched upon that earlier to create a crypto agility, visibility baseline across all IAM systems, and then see what are the what are the public key cryptography being maintained, in what areas are being maintained, which are the complex ones from there, which have most business implications. Find out how many of them, how long the secrets are supposed to be stored, and then talk about the suppliers. Are they crypto agile or not, right? So that's what they can do right now. And as I mentioned, cryptography or PQC, whatever you call it, it's not a one-time effort. It's constantly evolving. It's a quantum basically, right? So it's continuum.
Right.
So that means just like you prepare for any other algorithm changes evolving, same way you have to do here as well, right? So that's what organizations should do. Embed them into your design principles.
Yeah.
Do not say that's a one-time effort. I'll do when this will happen, then when I
It's a
start.
continuous
doing.
thing, yeah. So, Dipendo, agree with Gagan?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and even all the bodies that are working on this, the standardization process, Triple IIT, Internet Engineering Task Force, they are all, putting their heads together to make sure that we are crypto agile rather than, it's not a big bang, and it cannot happen in a big bang way. It has to be gradual, and it has to be supportive of existing frameworks and technologies, because and it has to be a balance, so that we can't throw away the existing security mechanism just like that. So the evolution has to be gradual, and it has to be taken care of, that the various people in the supply chain are working coherently, so that maximum protection can be provided, rather than doing nothing or doing least.
I think it's a kind of a journey, right?
Yeah,
That's what I can
absolutely.
say.
So it's a continuous process. So, Jason, one final thing for you. So, what should we prioritize as a country, as a society? Like, do you think we should prioritize policy, or do you think we should prioritize technology?
It's a difficult question. We should, prioritize both. One parting thought, which I would like to, on the basis of what he was saying, on the basis of everything else, is, see, from the Indian Army has a saying, okay, sweat in peace so that you do not bleed in war. So that is a same concept that I have to throw across on the table. Even though things are not there right now, or maybe things are half there, you don't have a quantum stable, let's say computing hardware facility yet. It is very important for us to ensure, both from a policy and at a technology level, that things are addressed on a war footing, so that when the actual incidents start happening, and it'll happen, just like with all things cybersecurity, we've seen how Log4j was, exploited. It all happened, in an instant. So in that way, we should be prepared for it, so that when the time comes, there is enough mitigation to create a more safer world.
Fantastic. Yeah. So thank you so much for the gracious presence and sharing valuable thoughts. Again, I learned a lot. So in the insights from the conversation was really, really great. So I was warned that we will be kicked off like in 2 minutes. So I think those 2 minutes are up. So thank you so much for being here. It's a Sunday, and I really appreciate you taking the time to come here. And again, thank you so much for participating.
Thanks all. Thanks, Hilal.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.